There's something most people never think about when they go to bed at night, and yet it quietly influences how their body functions for hours while they sleep. You might think about your mattress, your pillow, or whether you'll wake up feeling rested, but almost no one considers how their sleeping position affects what's happening inside their body. And this is where things become interesting, because every single night you spend 6, 7, sometimes 8 hours in one position. And during that time, your body is not simply resting. It's actively regulating circulation, supporting your heart, maintaining blood flow to your brain, and allowing important recovery processes to take place. Now, here's the part that often gets overlooked. The position you choose can either support these processes or make them slightly less efficient. Not in a dramatic way that you would immediately notice, but in a consistent way that adds up over time. And especially after 50 or 60, when your body becomes more sensitive to daily patterns, these small differences begin to matter more. What's surprising is that this isn't some obscure or complicated idea. It's well understood in medical science, but it's rarely explained in simple, practical terms. And once you understand how your body is positioned internally, where your heart sits, how your blood flows, how gravity interacts with your system while you lie down, you start to see why one simple adjustment can make a meaningful difference. Not overnight, not dramatically, but steadily. And that's what we're going to walk through today in a way that actually makes sense and is easy to apply. Let's start with something very simple, but important to understand. Your heart is not positioned exactly in the center of your chest, the way many people imagine. It sits slightly toward the left side, angled in a way that influences how blood moves when your body changes position. During the day, when you're upright, gravity works in a predictable way, and your body has adapted to that over your entire life. But when you lie down, everything shifts. The direction of blood flow, the pressure within your vessels, and how your heart works all adjust to this new orientation. Now, depending on how you position yourself, you can either create a situation where your body works smoothly or one where it has to compensate slightly. And while your body is incredibly capable of adapting, the goal is always to reduce unnecessary strain where possible. When you lie on your left side, your body is positioned in a way that tends to support natural circulation more effectively. Blood flows back toward the heart with less resistance, and the overall system operates in a more balanced way. This is not about your heart struggling in other positions, but about creating the most supportive conditions for it over long periods of time. And when you multiply that by thousands of nights over the years, even small advantages begin to matter, especially for those who are more mindful of maintaining steady cardiovascular health as they get older. Now let's talk about circulation in a bit more detail, because this is where things become even more relevant. Your body relies on a continuous flow of blood, delivering oxygen, nutrients, and removing what it no longer needs. One of the key parts of this process is how blood returns to your heart after it has traveled through your body. This return flow is influenced by multiple factors, including movement, muscle activity, and gravity. During the day, when you're walking or moving, your muscles assist in pushing blood through your system. But at night, when you're still, that assistance is reduced. So your body depends more on positioning and internal dynamics to keep things flowing efficiently. When your position places less pressure on major pathways of circulation, your body doesn't have to work as hard to maintain that flow. And this is where consistency becomes important. Because if circulation is slightly less efficient for hours at a time, night after night, your system gradually adapts to that pattern. On the other hand, when your position supports smoother flow, your body maintains a more stable internal balance. Again, these are not changes you feel immediately, but they influence how your system functions over time. And once you begin to think about sleep, not just as rest, but as a period where your body is actively managing these processes, the importance of positioning becomes much clearer. Another fascinating aspect that most people never hear about is how your brain manages its own internal environment during sleep. While you rest, your brain is not inactive. In fact, it becomes very active in a different way. It begins a process of clearing and resetting, allowing it to function more efficiently the next day. This process depends on fluid movement within the brain and the surrounding structures. And just like circulation in the rest of your body, this movement is influenced by position. When your body is aligned in a way that allows these processes to occur without unnecessary resistance, your system works more smoothly. This contributes to clearer thinking, more stable energy, and overall better functioning throughout the day. It's not something you notice immediately after one night, but over time, these patterns can influence how you feel on a daily basis. And what's interesting is that this entire process happens automatically. You don't have to do anything except allow your body to be in a position that supports it. That's what makes this so powerful. It's simple, it's passive, and it works in the background without requiring effort once it becomes a habit. Now let's connect this to something many people experience, but don't always associate with their overall health: digestion and nighttime discomfort. A large number of adults over 50 notice that lying down after dinner sometimes brings a sense of heaviness, mild discomfort, or that familiar feeling where food seems to sit higher than it should. While this is often brushed off as something minor, it actually reflects how gravity and body position influence what's happening internally. Your stomach is not positioned symmetrically, and the way it connects to your esophagus creates a natural pathway that can either support or challenge how your body manages its contents when you lie down. When you rest on your left side, this connection tends to sit in a more favorable position, allowing everything to remain where it belongs. When you lie on your back or right side, that alignment changes slightly, and your body has to work a bit harder to maintain the same balance. Over time, repeated irritation in this area can contribute to a broader pattern of internal stress. And while it may not feel serious in the moment, it can influence how comfortable and stable your body feels over the long term. This is why many people notice that simply adjusting their position leads to a more settled and comfortable night. It's not about eliminating every discomfort completely, but about supporting your body in a way that reduces unnecessary strain while it's trying to rest and recover. Another area where this becomes important is how your body manages pressure and stability during the night. Blood pressure naturally follows a rhythm, and during sleep, it is expected to become more balanced as your body enters a state of recovery. This is part of what allows your system to reset and prepare for the next day. However, this process depends on how efficiently your body is functioning during those hours. When circulation is supported and your body is not working against unnecessary resistance, this natural rhythm is easier to maintain. But when your position creates subtle inefficiencies, your system may remain slightly more active than it needs to be. Not enough for you to notice directly, but enough to influence how steady your body feels over time. This is particularly relevant for those who are already paying attention to their cardiovascular health, because small adjustments that support natural balance can complement everything else you are already doing. It's not about replacing healthy habits, but about reinforcing them in a way that works quietly in the background. And again, what makes this so effective is that it requires no additional effort once it becomes part of your routine. Now let's make this practical, because understanding something is one thing, but applying it is what actually makes the difference. Changing your sleeping position is not always easy, especially if you've spent years in a different habit. Your body is used to a certain pattern, and it will naturally return to what feels familiar. But small adjustments can help guide that transition. One of the simplest approaches is to create gentle support that keeps you in place without forcing anything. Placing a pillow behind your back can help prevent rolling over unconsciously, while a pillow between your knees can make the position more comfortable by keeping your body aligned. These small details make a significant difference because comfort is what allows consistency. If a position feels natural and supported, your body will begin to adopt it without resistance. And it's important to remember that this is not about being perfect. You don't need to stay in one position the entire night. Your body will move, and that's completely normal. The goal is simply to make this your starting position and your default. Over time, that becomes enough to create a consistent pattern that your body can benefit from. So at this point, you might start to see that something as simple as your sleeping position is not just about comfort, but about how your body is supported for hours without interruption. And what makes this especially important is that sleep is one of the few times when your body is completely dependent on passive processes. You're not moving, you're not adjusting consciously, and your system is relying entirely on how everything is positioned to maintain balance. This is where small details begin to matter more than most people expect. Because when your body is in a position that slightly limits efficiency, even in subtle ways, it has to compensate quietly in the background. And while you may not feel that immediately, over time, those patterns begin to shape how your body functions day to day. On the other hand, when your position supports natural alignment, circulation, and internal balance, your system doesn't need to work as hard to maintain stability. It simply functions more smoothly. And once you start thinking about sleep from this perspective, it opens the door to a deeper understanding of what's really happening during those hours. Because there's another layer to this that most people never consider. What happens when the body remains still for long periods of time, and how that stillness interacts with everything we've just talked about. There's another angle to this that very few people ever consider, and it has to do with what happens when your body remains in the same position for hours without movement. During the day, even when you're sitting, you shift, adjust, stand up, and your muscles are constantly helping circulation in small ways. But during sleep, especially deeper sleep, your body becomes much more still. This is completely natural, but it also means your system depends even more on passive factors like positioning to maintain efficiency. When your body is aligned in a way that supports natural flow, everything continues to move smoothly, even without active movement. But when there's slight resistance, even subtle pressure in certain areas, your body has to compensate. And over time, repeated compensation becomes a pattern. This is particularly relevant for people who notice that they wake up feeling slightly heavy or that it takes time for their body to get going in the morning. These are not always obvious signs of anything serious, but they can reflect how your system is managing itself overnight. By adjusting your position, you are essentially removing one layer of resistance, allowing your body to function more naturally during those hours when it is most vulnerable to stagnation. And what's important here is not perfection, but direction. Even partial improvement in positioning can create a noticeable difference over time, especially when it becomes consistent. There's another angle to this that very few people ever consider, and it has to do with what happens when your body remains in the same position for hours without movement. During the day, even when you're sitting, you shift, adjust, stand up, and your muscles are constantly helping circulation in small ways. But during sleep, especially deeper sleep, your body becomes much more still. This is completely natural, but it also means your system depends even more on passive factors like positioning to maintain efficiency. When your body is aligned in a way that supports natural flow, everything continues to move smoothly even without active movement. But when there's slight resistance, even subtle pressure in certain areas, your body has to compensate. And over time, repeated compensation becomes a pattern. This is particularly relevant for people who notice that they wake up feeling slightly heavy, or that it takes time for their body to get going in the morning. These are not always obvious signs of anything serious, but they can reflect how your system is managing itself overnight. By adjusting your position, you are essentially removing one layer of resistance, allowing your body to function more naturally during those hours when it is most vulnerable to stagnation. And what's important here is not perfection, but direction. Even partial improvement in positioning can create a noticeable difference over time, especially when it becomes consistent. It's also worth looking at this from a long-term perspective, because this is where the real value becomes clear. One night in a slightly better position won't change everything, but hundreds of nights, thousands of nights, that's where patterns begin to shape outcomes. Your body is constantly adapting to what you do most often. If you consistently support it, it becomes more efficient, more stable, and more predictable. If there are small inefficiencies repeated over time, your body adapts to those as well. And this is why seemingly minor habits can have a larger impact than expected. Sleep is one of the few things you do every single day without exception. That makes it one of the most powerful opportunities to support your health in a way that doesn't require extra time, effort, or complexity. You're not adding anything new to your routine. You're simply refining something that is already there. And when you look at it that way, it becomes much easier to appreciate why this matters. It's not about one specific position being perfect, but about choosing the option that consistently supports your body a little bit better than the alternatives. So here's how I would approach this in the simplest possible way. Tonight, don't try to overthink anything. Just start by choosing a position that supports your body more naturally. Begin on your left side, make yourself comfortable, and allow your body to settle. If you wake up and notice you've shifted, gently return to that position without frustration. This is not about forcing change, it's about guiding it. Over time, your body will begin to recognize this as its default, and it will become easier without effort. And as this becomes part of your routine, you may start to notice small but meaningful differences. Your mornings may feel more stable, your body may feel more balanced, and overall, things may feel a bit more predictable. These are subtle changes, but they are the kind that build over time and support long-term well-being. And perhaps most importantly, this is something you can do immediately. No cost, no complexity, no disruption to your routine, just awareness and a small adjustment. If this gave you a different way of thinking about something as simple as sleep, take a moment to reflect on your current habits. And if you know someone who might benefit from this, share it with them. Because sometimes the most powerful changes are not the ones that require the most effort, but the ones that quietly support your body every single day without you even noticing.